Hello friends, it is Grappa, and with the new patch, it means that we have a new messenger to fight, and it means a lot of you guys are going to need a lot of help, because this one's actually kind of tough. Or, well, not really, they have made it easier compared to like the Wither Messenger, but I'm going to give you guys a guide anyway. So, the Scorch Messenger, here he is. He looks pretty awesome, pretty sick, he has a huge scythe, and yeah. So the gimmick for this fight, basically, is that if you attack the boss, he'll also hurt you, and he will dispel all your buffs, basically. That's basically the idea of the fight, right? And so let's go first into what Tide Callers are. This is like the new mechanic for this whole boss, for this line of bosses, the Scorch Messenger and the Sunken Viper. And basically, there's nothing much to it, right? The idea is basically, at the start of your turn, your Espers will gain what is called this Tidal Force stack. And what that Tidal Force stack does is when they attack, it will deal 100% true damage to the boss. And that matters because later on the boss will actually reduce all your damage. But it also means that since they only gain one stack, only like the first hit that they do will deal this extra true damage. And I'm gonna go get into this later. And when they attack, when any unit attacks, they will apply Tide Note. And so non-Tide Caller units will apply 5 stacks of Tide Note, while Tide Caller units will apply 10 stacks. And when you reach 100 stacks, basically, it's gonna deal 10% of the damage immediately to the boss. So 10% of its max HP. And for every debuff they have, they will gain an extra minus 1%. They'll take an extra 1% damage. So each unit deals either 5 or 10 stacks if they are a Tide Caller. And then once the boss reaches 100, they will lose 10% of their max HP plus 1% per debuff they have. So maybe poison might be useful, but poison's also limited. So that's the whole idea of Tide Caller. And the most important thing to note is that you will only gain 1 stack of Tidal Force. And then that stack will be consumed and deal true damage to the target. And that's gonna matter because once we get into the boss, you'll see. But this is the new player team comp, or like the mid-player team comp that I've thought of. Just something that's very accessible, something that's very free to play, and I tried to use as many epic or below units as possible. And the reason why is that, okay, we're gonna look at his attacks first. So basic attack just attacks all enemies, attack down and defense down, pretty basic. Now this one's the really dangerous one. So attacks all enemies 3 times, damage per hit is whatever. Each hit has a 50% chance of dispelling 1 buff. And if an enemy is not buffed, it will inflict stun and reduce their max HP capacity. So what you want is on every 3 turns, and you have to outspeed the boss if you want it to be every 3 turns, you have to have at minimum 3 buffs on your whole team. Because if you don't have at least 3 buffs, there's a chance that he just dispels all those buffs and then stuns you, and then you will actually lose max HP capacity. And this max HP capacity can't be healed up by Ahmed, so it's just a really bad thing. So you, as much as possible, don't want this to happen, which is why for the free-to-play team comp that I've come up with, I have decided to use Yasuhua, because she gives attack up and defense up every 3 turns, and then Meredith will give up the shield and the speed and the recovery possibly every 3 turns. So that is all really good. And then for my Tide Notes, I'm actually using just Anki Chai, I think, is my only Tide Note user. Maybe Sanders, my other Tide Caller, I mean. So yeah. Now let's go on to the passives. And these passives are kind of what make or break. It might be easy now, but maybe later on when you're in like level 150, maybe these passives will be really bite in the butt. So immune to AP reduction, you can't AP reduce. Poison does not take more than 50,000 damage. So at a higher level, the poisons will not do a lot of damage. Now this is the important thing. When hit, damage taken minus 2,000 and deals damage to the attacker, the damage is 30% of the Scorch Messenger's attack. So what this means is multi-hits are actually really bad, because if you multi-hit, each of those hits will have a minus 2,000, and then each of those hits will also deal 30% of the Scorch Messenger's attack to that unit that multi-hit. So multi-hits are actually really, really bad. And another thing is, let's look at this here, right? So you see this, consumes all Tidal Force stacks when attacking. Each stack deals true damage based on attack. And you gain 1 stack every turn. Maybe it'll increase when you level up the advanced strategy, but for right now it's 1 stack every attack. And so what'll happen is if you multi-hit, you will consume the 1 stack, deal true damage based on 100%, but all of your hits are minus 2000 damage. And so this is really bad because if you use multi-hits, you'll only deal your 100% true damage once, but you will take minus 2000 damage taken. The boss will take minus 2000 damage taken every single hit, and then you will also take 30% damage every single hit. So multi-hits are not that good here. You want to avoid multi-hits as much as possible. And for the last passive, this one is dispels 10 stacks of Tide Note, and then if without Tide Note, its damage is plus 100% for 1 turn after it takes action, gains 1 stack of damage and inflicts healing received minus 10. So as much as possible, you want the boss to have at least 10 stacks of Tide Note, or at least 5 stacks of Tide Note, that way if without Tide Note, right? So at least 5 stacks of Tide Note before it takes its turn. So sometimes it might be more beneficial to not trigger the 100% stacks of Tide Note that will deal damage to the boss, and instead make sure that he has at least 5 left, because if he doesn't have 5 left, he is going to deal 2 times the damage, and he's going to gain damage up for the rest of the fight and inflict healing received minus 10% on your team. So that is pretty much it, and I'm gonna see here right now. So lots of buffs, really good. The boss is really weak right now, so it's easy to kill. But I also chose Anki-Chai because he does the 10 Tide Note stacks. And you'll see here, he's going to use his big attack and he's going to dispel. Yeah, dispelled a lot, but no one took any damage, any stuns, or any healing reduced because they had tons of stuns in their thing. So yeah, healing received reduced. So we still received, oh, after it takes action if without Tide Note. Wait, why did we receive minus 10? Why did we receive minus healing? What? He had Tide Note up. If without Tide Note, its damage plus 100% for 1 turn after it takes action. Oh, so this isn't predicated on Tide Note. I see. So if the fight lasts really long as well, he's just gonna ramp up in damage and damage. I see. So it's actually just if he takes a lot of turns, he's just gonna ramp up in damage and minus healing received anyway. So you kind of want to nuke the boss as much as possible, as fast as possible as well. So maybe 3 supports isn't actually that good, but Parmy and Sander both do insane amount of damage because they scale under speed, so I think this should be fine, especially with the defense up. I think the team should live just fine. So yeah, that is it. I think that it should be pretty safe up until like level 20 and stuff like that. So I'm going to push through this boss and I'll let you guys know if there's any problems. So yeah, I'll come back. Alright, so up until this point, there has not been any hiccups basically with this team. It's been pretty solid. The one thing that I will say is that something I forgot to look at is the fact that it actually applies defense down and attack down to your team. So you might want to run some cleansing instead. But in terms of like survivability, Meredith works just fine. So maybe if I needed some more cleansing, you could use someone like, for example, maybe not Hengye, because she only provides healing. But yeah, so maybe not Hengye, maybe someone like, I think someone that could be useful is for example Ude. Ude might be really nice because she does have the attack up and the dispel on your team, and the attack up does work pretty nicely with the Anki-Chai. So maybe Ude is also an option. Maybe also like Alice could be another option, not for the cleansing, but just in general for the buffs. So yeah, this team is really solid, but I will say that it can get better, and so probably the best team comp or one of the better team comps, depending on like where the advanced anomaly goes, because I'll showcase that later. But in terms of the advanced strategy, maybe something like this may be the best, right? So you got the survivability, and yeah, I think this should be good. Clara for the survivability, the healing and the immunity buff that might help, especially if I have R2 Clara, that would be nice. And Ollie should do insane amount of damage here because, you know, the whole max HP thing. And he is also a Tide Caller. All these units are Tide Callers, so that will help a lot. Now, I'm just gonna go showcase the advanced strategy because why not? Let's take a look at it. So first is just some extra damage. and it'll go up to 105% of true damage instead of just 100% attack. And then some more damage later on. When the Tide Rush effect is triggered, it grants an extra turn to the Esper with the highest attack. So if your Ollie has the highest attack, then he can get a lot of turns cycling really quickly. That's really nice. Moving on. So ignores the target's defense. Wow, so the more debuffs, the more defense ignored, up to 10%. So there also might be a thing where we try to put as much debuffs on the boss. So maybe someone who can apply a lot of bleeds or a lot of poisons would be really nice. And I think because of that, Embla is going to be really nice because of the whole applying lots of bleeds when her corrupted stacks happen. So Embla's probably going to be really good. Just some stats there. Gains 1 stack of Tidebringer at the start of the turn, granting basic ability damage up to 90%. So basic abilities are going to do a ton of damage, which should be really good for maybe someone like Embla, maybe someone like Ollie, maybe someone like Sander, maybe. Just some more stats here. What is this? No, this one, not that one, this one. Tide Caller has a 20% chance of inflicting another 5 stacks of Tide Note. So yeah, more stacks, that's also really nice. More stats, and lastly, just the shield. So grant some shield, can't be cancelled. Oh, grants a target tidal shield when healing. Shield strength is 20% of the healing efficacy up to 100% of the target's max HP. So, tidal shield when healing. So maybe Asenath will be really good. R6 Asenath will be really good because she heals multiple times both on her S2 and her S3. So she will gain a lot of shield basically. So maybe Asenath will be really good in that regard. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the Scorch Messenger. I won't be covering the Chimera because the Chimera is always going to be really confusing and there's going to be a lot to test there. And a lot of you won't even have access to the Chimera right now. So let's just keep this short and simple and make this about the Scorch Messenger and the Advanced Anomaly. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions down below, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching and get out of here.